Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer. I am technically wearing my Christmas sweater, but this isn't specifically Christmas per se, although I was sent this as a Christmas gift from friend of the channel, the Punk Otaku Scribe, and a big thanks to him for that. This is Playmates' giant Mothra, and I told him I would do a video on this, partly as a thank you, and partly to see if this figure is actually worth getting. Now, as I mentioned, this is the giant figure. Small for a giant figure, yes, but it's to the same scale as the other giant figures in the line. And Playmates hasn't always done too well with the giant figures, largely because they leave the screw holes open. I suppose that's acceptable for Kong, or at least you can overlook it easier because the open screw holes are in the back. But when it comes to monsters like Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, and Shimo, open screw holes all the way down one side, which, you know, given that these are action figures for kids, they might not care. A collector like me kinda does. And considering that they do plug the screw holes up for the mega figures, which are even bigger, I don't see why they couldn't have done it for the giant ones. Mothra, of course, is in that same scale, paradoxically being small and large. Small because, you know, monsterverse Mothra has this tiny little body, but large because of these gigantic wings. These two come detached, by the way, and yes, there is a stand included. So anyway, first major question. Screw holes in this Mothra? Surprisingly, no. Not even on the bottom. If you can, there, see, there is a hole that allows for the stand to attach, but otherwise no screw holes. The only screw hole, the only visible screw, ironically enough, is on the stand right here. So, I don't know why Mothra is the one exception, but here we are. Now, in terms of everything else, the wings, as you can see, they're very detailed, very film accurate, but that's because they have stickers applied that do the pattern, as opposed to trying to paint them on. And it's on both sides, on both sets of wings. So it looks good. Obviously, you gotta be careful not to have these get frayed or wet or anything. But it's not bad. And, you know, taking into account this is a Playmates figure, details on the body and the head and everything are gonna be kinda sparse. There's a little bit of detailing on things like the stinger, tips of the feet, blue eyes with white around them. So, not hyper detailed, of course. There's ironically far more detail in the Haya Toys figure where the body is this big, but overall, doesn't look bad. And articulation is pretty much what you'd expect. Both sets of wings can move on hinges. The front legs and back legs can move, and they actually have a range where they can move out a little bit, not just back and forth. These two limbs are static, head doesn't move or anything, but you know, I don't think we were expecting too much out of Mothra articulation, and you can technically move this part of the stand to angle Mothra in different ways. But I think for the most part, people are going to display her upright like this. Of course, the tricky part when it comes to display is going to be where do you put it? Like I said, paradoxically small and large. You either need to fold the wings up and have a lot of space up top, or you keep them out like this and have a lot of horizontal space. Now, since I'm here and talking about Playmates Mothra figures, I also got the 6-inch one, which uses the same basic sculpt, of course. I didn't get it as an individual figure. I actually got this one as part of the set with the repaints of the other characters. And I will say, just quickly to discuss them, I think these are my favorite repaints of the of the four main characters. You know, Kong and Scar King, they're fairly straightforward. Scar King's got a little bit of orange here and there. Kong's got some grayish airbrushing on one side, but not the other. But with Godzilla and Shimo, Godzilla, I really like the hot pink they went with. It really pops out from the black. And Shimo has a lot more blue on her, but I think what really works are the eyes. Instead of just the little light blue dots that the other figures have, these have this thick outline. It almost looks anime-like for her. But anyway, the main idea here is Mothra, who is not a recolor. And of course, came with the little Gia figure, which is much too big for the 6-inch scale. Might scale a little bit better with the giant Mothra, if you can actually get her to balance on there. Details on little Gia are fine, but obviously she's not the main focus. And of course, she's probably going to be the one thing that gets lost the easiest. As for Mothra, wings move in the same way as on the big figure. Limbs are completely static. Detail is even lighter. Same sticker thing applies to the wings. But overall scale's really good, so completes the set, right? So overall, Playmates did surprisingly well by Mothra. Overall, I would say. Not perfect, of course, and if you're looking for like the super detailed stuff, obviously you're going to go with something like Bandai Movie Monster series, although, come to think of it, Bandai Movie Monster Mothra wasn't that good. So you'd probably go with something like Monster Arts or Haya Toys or an X Plus statue or something. But those are expensive. This Mothra, if you can get it brand new and not get scalped, she's inexpensive and delivers an impressive look and size and everything without breaking the bank. So overall, I would say this is the best of the giant figures, by far. Like, no question about that. And an overall good representation of the monsterverse Mothra. Also, the stand is definitely doing its job, and it's appreciated that it came with one instead of just sort of leaving it up to the collector or whoever gets this to figure out how to make Mothra fly. So yeah, kudos to Playmates for finally getting one of these giant kaiju figures right. And once again, thank you to the Punk Otaku Scribe for sending this my way as a Christmas gift. And that's all I have to say for now. So, until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off.